I'm going to tell y'all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Identified Celebrity Review. We had a great panel today to discuss the J.J. Abrams controversial new UFO documentary. And whether you've seen that or not, you're going to find this discussion interesting. But first, I want to bring up the topic of a galactic modem back up. Spurred by a UCR Facebook question, I talked briefly last Monday about how an intergalactic radio network might work, with certain stars serving as cell towers for local neighborhood groups. On reflection, this might be a naive approach towards communication at astronomical distances. Using radio waves or any other type of light has some major challenges. Namely, things can obscure light or radio and it fades fast. The solution? Use gravity waves instead of light. Gravity waves are analogous to sound waves. They are both compressional waves that ripple out in a medium. Air is the medium that sound waves travel through, while space itself is the medium for gravity waves. But there are key differences. For one, gravity waves don't care about matter. They go through walls or entire planets or stars completely unaffected. Another more interesting aspect of gravity waves is that their amplitude falls proportionally to distance, instead of the distance squared as in sound and light waves. If we built a sound or a light detector that is 100 times more sensitive than current equipment, we could only hear about 10 times as far. If we built a gravity wave detector that is 100 times more sensitive than our current equipment, we could hear the full 100 times as far. And we're just beginning to build up our gravitational ears here on Earth with LIGO and Virgo. These are absolute marvels of engineering that use laser light reflected over vast distances to infer disturbances in space-time. They've already heard the merger of extremely distant black holes, but this is just the beginning. There are plans to launch a system of satellites into orbit, each shining lasers at each other. Just like space telescopes revolutionized optical astronomy, the Laser Interferometer Space Antenna, or LISA, will revolutionize gravity astronomy. It will be 1,000 times bigger than the LIGO observatory and will be almost totally isolated from its environment. With this tool, our ability to hear gravitational signals will go up by several magnitudes. It will be like taking out earplugs in the jungle. Who knows what regions of previously uninteresting space will be calling out to us? And who knows what we might see when we take a close visual inspection of these areas. Instead of just the constant hum caused by black hole mergers, we may find our universe abuzz with life calling out to us. There's a video from a while back on my channel, Rather Be Squidding, exploring the concept of alien gravity wave signals and gravity astronomy. Head over there after the show to learn more. But now, let's try to make some gravitational waves of our own as we start this show. Michael is still out sick. We're all hoping he feels better and that the real Mike is back soon. Until then, we have, as always, your host of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, Luis Jimenez.
Hello, Rather. How you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. I can't complain. We're here. We're going to have a good time. Unfortunately, Michael will not be here. We were supposed to have John Greenwald, but he can't be out here because of personal reasons. It's one of those days.
But we still have some good guests and plenty to talk about, though.
Plenty to talk about. John sent his apologies. He wished he could be here, but unfortunately he couldn't. But that's okay. We're going to go on. We're still going to talk about the Showtime series because I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of it, but I don't want to give too much away right this second. Hello, good morning, good evening, good day, good afternoon, and aloha. Welcome back to another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name is Luis Jimenez. That is Rather Be Squitting. Before we get started, I want to say hello. I want to say thank you to the sponsor, BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995. Also want to say thank you to DOS Tapes. They provide all of the wonderful tunes that you hear on the show. Rather, did you start off by calling the show the Identified Celebrity Review?
I might have missed the UN.
Nobody knows who we are. We're unidentified.
For now.
Very, very F-list actor, and at least in my case, I'm non-existent. I'm not a celebrity. That's the whole point of the name of the show, to make fun of me. So I hope you like it. Some people don't. They think I put the word celebrity in there and they think I'm proclaiming to be a celebrity. I'm the farthest thing from it. Absolutely farthest thing from it. But before we get started, let's say hello to everybody in the chat, shall we? David Altman, Eknov, FPV, Preston Paget, Tim F, Tina Tamazuski, who is our moderator in the chat. She absolutely rules. Jack Ryan in the house, Tim F, Simon Fly. You guys, thank you all so damn much for being here. Kit, if I didn't call out your name, I'm sorry. Kim Williams, just flying through here. I saw Pat somewhere. Don D. You guys,
we've got over 100 people in here. So
over 100 people. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, share the show. Let's see how many folks we can get in here. We're going to be talking about Showtime's 4-part series, UFO, that was executive produced by J.J. Abrams. And it was, let me just make sure I got this right. It was directed by 2 episodes by Paul Crowder, and then 1 or I think 2, I guess, by Mark Monroe. That's the only only directors that they are flagging on the IMDb. But yeah, I mean, let's get into it. Let's bring in our guests for today, our last minute additions. These guys were so cool to come in last minute. Of course, we've got our regular staple in the house in UFO Jane. Let's go ahead and bring the lady in first. Jane Kyle, how you doing? Texas UFO researcher, right?
Yep.
Lady of the UFO community. She's got her YouTube show, The Weird UFO Show. Welcome back, Jane Kyle. How you doing?
Thanks. I'm doing great. I was watching the episodes all day, so
yeah, I know. You crammed them in today. I appreciate it. Yeah,
on my brain.
I appreciate that you got to watch. Did you get to finish it?
Yeah. Wait.
So
shoot. I mean, I may not have finished the very end of episode 4. Come to think of it, I think
that's okay. I think if you got if you got at least into episode 3,
3.5.
Episode 3, I think, will be the controversial one.
Yeah, 3 was definitely the controversial one. But we'll get into it. And then, of course, next up, we've got Manny Miranda, who is an Army veteran and host of the Fringe Center podcast. He covers everything from current events and history to UAP and the occult. Manny Miranda, what is up, my friend?
How's it going, guys? How y'all doing?
Not too shabby at all. And then last but not least, another LA actor, probably the best looking person on the planet, next to, I don't know, who's that stud right now? He used to have a huge crush on James Franco, but I can't think of anybody right this second. You know who I do like? That fake Matt Damon guy. What's his name? Jesse Plimpton, I think.
Yeah, from the Breaking Bad, right?
No. Yeah, for Breaking Bad, yes. He wasn't Breaking Bad, but I can't remember if that's the actor's name. Anyway, it's getting weird. Let's bring in Mr. Daniel Miller. Daniel, what's up, buddy?
Yes. Not much. I'm going to take these quotes. I'm going to put them on my resume, They're like reviews.
Well, dang, man. You know the casting director.
The next best looking guy to the fake Matt Damon.
Yeah,
your resume.
That's a great quote. Hey, Jane, real quick, turn down your mic just a tad.
I tested this before.
Just a tad, and you'll be so good. You're so close. Don't sweat it. That's why I'm here.
How's this?
That's
And
better.
I promise I
better.
tested it before
No,
this time.
I trust you. Jesse Plemons, that's his name.
That's it.
Thank you, Kim Williams. He's a killer actor, by the way, Jesse Plemons.
So good.
Sick actor. Anyway, okay, so you guys, let's get into this this show UFO. There was I don't think it's been, a lot of people really haven't been talking about it a whole bunch. I have a feeling it's because it might have angered a bunch of people on UFO Twitter, especially when we get to episode 3. But let's talk about it because I enjoyed it, and I'll get into the reasons why. But where should we start? I mean, the first episode starts with Kevin Day, and we've got John Greenwald sort of bringing facts like John Greenwald does. And then we hear Kevin Day's story at the end of it. What did you guys feel about this first episode? I guess rather we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, I think there's one kind of big point, which was kind of throughout the entire episodes, which was they would play a lot of B-roll clips of UFOs that might not be unidentified, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of an interesting choice.
I think I've got a theory as to why they did that. This was a big beef that a lot of people had. Why is J.J. Abrams using this fake UFO footage for this Showtime special? And I think the whole point of it is it's confusing. Like it's hard for people to tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. And that's the whole underlining point of this entire series. So I think I kind of answered my own question today when I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, because again, you're trying to put yourself in the directors and producers mindset and what the final message of this show was. And it was confusion. Like it's really, really, really difficult to understand and tell what the truth is. And I think this is the underlying issue in politics as a whole. We don't trust our representatives. We don't trust the story. Yeah, what do you got?
But here's the thing, though. There are so many photos and videos that are just as compelling or close to as compelling as the ones that were shown in the documentary that are like more verified. Like for example, like I recognize so many things in this and I had like a moment to check. So like there's a triangle video in there that I also think is amazing too. And I featured it too in a triangle wrap up that I have on my YouTube channel right now if people want to check it out. So that's a great one, but it's a MUFON report as far as I know. The witness was never followed up with. We know nothing about it. There was a 2014 well, I know it's 2014, but it's like a saucer that's in the sky. I recognized it. It was part of a wave of 2014 flying saucer sightings in Texas.
Right.
MUFON said that it was a fake video, and I actually received that photo as well in my inbox from a witness who said that the one everybody was talking about is that witness is fake. So if you want to talk about confusing, and then there was the Jerusalem UFO from 2011.
Right.
So it was a lot of the confusing cases, but for every one confusing case, there's probably a more authentic video they could have shown instead.
All right. So Jane, I hate to do this to you.
No, it's a microphone.
The audience is saying that you're still super loud.
Why is this happening?
Hey, did you see the cam/mic settings in the StreamYard?
Yeah, I mean, I tested before.
There's
if you go ahead, tell her.
If you go to audio, there's an automatically adjust mic volume check.
Yeah, it's checked. Everything's
what you might
checked.
want to do is uncheck it. When you uncheck it, it'll give you an adjuster. So maybe just adjust it down.
Okay, I've adjusted it down.
I think that's a little better. If not, we'll keep working with it. Don't worry. We'll work through this, you guys. This is live. We do this as it happens.
I'm going to have to start using Spreaker more than Zoom because I never have issues on Zoom. Yeah.
I've got an extra microphone I can mail you.
But this is a good microphone. It should work. We'll have to have
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. Anyway,
separate session.
But yeah, no, I think you. I'm not saying that they were trying to confuse the audience. I think they were taking real and questionable footage and putting them in one format to display to everyone. Like, even some of, like, I think the Jerusalem footage is fake. There's no doubt in my mind.
Oh, no. Here's the thing. That's one of the most confusing cases ever. The original footage of the Jerusalem UFO was never debunked. It was then followed up, piled on top of, with additional videos and clearly fake photos. And those were the only ones that the mainstream media ran with. So that's kind of what it is. So that is probably one of the most confusing, disinformation-y, videos for them to just throw in there, like with the caption, for people to look up. And I'm gonna go sit on my couch.
Oh my god, it's so funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, kind of my
do you
take
think,
on what they were doing is that they said several times in this show that 95% of all the UAP stories and tales and everything is bullshit. And I think that applies to, and then, the gems are the 5% that are real. I think that applies to the B-roll. And they were kind of showing that with their B-roll that, 95% of the stuff that they're showing us that is just transient is going to be bullshit, but there might be some gems in there.
Yeah, let me tell you.
Can I say a quick thing?
Go ahead.
You go first.
No, you go. You go. I got you.
Danny.
All right, we'll come around next time. I think we're overthinking it. I think this documentary was never meant for us. And in terms of the people that, I've already spent a considerable amount of time and energy into looking into the topic. And I really think it was just B-roll footage to help elicit wonder and like, whoa, what is that, into the audience, to kind of help create that feeling of, wow, what are these things, as they kind of take them along for the ride. I think whether they were real or fake, I think they didn't care. I think it was kind of because
it can't be a documentary though, then, right?
No, they clearly didn't care.
It can. I mean, because they're not saying that footage is real or fake. They're just kind of interstitialing this footage at the beginning and end of episodes. But I like the idea. Maybe it is, the whole point is because it is so confusing. But a part of me wonders, and we can get more into the other stuff later, just based on some other things I saw, whether for them it was just, here's some cool UFO footage. I want to use this kind of as like to set a tone or to set a theme for the show, because you have to remember that for a lot of people, they've never seen a UFO video.
Right.
This is for people that literally know nothing about it.
And that main one that's like spinning that they showed multiple times, that is just like a random video that was uploaded to YouTube. As far as I can tell, there's no witness trail. So you're right. This is the first time that some people are seeing UFO video and they're taking it seriously. And it is clear that they didn't care about any of the B-roll footage whatsoever.
Which definitely, is worth is a worthy criticism.
I mean, there's some real random stuff in there.
They complain about, but I do like what you said, Lou, that, it could be because it's kind of makes a good point that this is such a confusing topic. It is kind of interesting that, is it real? Is it not? Who knows? Some of them, it is a bit, you do know, some of them remain questionable. But if that was the case, I wish they addressed it, and they didn't.
Yeah. Manny, what do you got?
All right, so I think there's an angle that a lot of people haven't looked at. It may not make J.J. Abrams look very good, but J.J. Abrams is a master of viral marketing. Let's not forget that this is the guy who made Cloverfield, right?
Yeah.
He put clues in videos. He made a fake website about a slushy company. He went through all these painstaking efforts to try to drive discussion online. Well, stop and think about how would you drive discussion of a topic online over something like UFOs, right? In the modern era of social media, the whole old notion of, any press is good press has like gone through the roof. So the more you can get people talking, even if it's in a negative way, the more your signal gets boosted in social media. So what would be the best way to do that for like a UFO documentary? Put the bullshit videos side by side with the ones that have been confirmed with DOD, and then let everyone argue about it to boost your signal. And now people are coming forward to see it. I mean, if that wasn't his intention to kind of try to just get all eyeballs on this, then he probably wouldn't have opened up with that Apollo mission that was provably not a UFO, right? So I think a lot of people are looking at it like, I don't want to say like an innocent way, but it's like a realistic way would be like, okay, it's confusing, but we can't forget how good at viral marketing J.J. Abrams is. Like, He had to have known at some point, like, I'm putting bullshit in with real shit, and I'm just going to everyone's going to start arguing about it. They're going to talk about it. But then, you know, and this is kind of the positive side of it, no matter how much that causes bickering within the UFO community, at the end of the day, how many new eyeballs just heard Greenwald talk for the first time? Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a net positive. There is a net positive at the end of the day.
It goes back to what Daniel's saying, is that this wasn't made for us.
Exactly.
That's a given. Like, we should know that with every single thing.
But the reason that I know that video is a hoax is because I've been doing this for over 10 years. Right. And people new to J.J. Abrams' documentary are not going to have 10 years to catch up and go back in time. Right. And they're just going to trust naturally. So that's why I'm not surprised. I wasn't expecting anything different than that type of B-roll footage.
Exactly.
So it doesn't. I wouldn't say it surprises me, but I'm not going to make excuses for it though, because there's lots of really compelling videos where you do have verified witnesses and things like that.
I'm not going to make excuses for it, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for it, because there's like Manny said, we open with this Apollo audio that is clearly not. It's used in a completely wrong context, which guess what, where else that happens? In the UFO community, right? So then you juxtapose that beginning with the very end of this, you know, think of it as one huge film. At the end of this, they are telling you there's a very good chance that this is government cover-up. This is government tech that they're covering up, and they're using this UFO story to do that. And when they start eliciting technology from the 1950s where we're using balloons at 300,000 feet and they're moving at Mach 10, that's crazy to me. Absolutely nuts. I had no idea the government had balloons that moved at Mach anything. I don't think of balloons moving that fast, but the fact that we've somehow cracked that kind of tech in the 50s really gets me thinking. And I think the thing with this documentary, and the thing that I really loved about it, is it gave me that feeling in my stomach, oh man, maybe I've got this wrong. Maybe I've got this wrong. And and it also confirmed for me, even as best as I try to compartmentalize my personal experience from the data that comes across the desk, I clearly can't do that. I've got a horse in the race, because when they started giving me the ex-MUFON guy, when they started giving me the military specs on some of this tech that's been existing for decades, when they talk about, you know, how they killed a guy in Paul Benowitz because he was picking up drone swarm tech in the early 80s. Like, so that's what I loved about it, is it made me question what clearly is a belief system. I believe in this, and even though I try not to, I try my best to keep the most neutral feeling about the phenomenon, because either way, even though I do now, I've realized for sure I have a belief system on this, I still know that if at the end of this it is military tech that's been covered up and we've cracked some amazing new anti-gravity or whatever kind of technology, I'm okay with that. Like, that's still a really, really big story for humanity, and it's still a lot of fun to talk about and dissect as much as we can. So that's kind of why I think this footage is trying to show you, hey, we could put shitty context to this story, and we could put deceptive military context to this story, because this story overall is confusing as hell. And I think, you know, because I've been watching interviews with the directors and the producers that they've been doing, like the Washington Post and, you know, more elite kind of news outlets, is that they are convinced we're fanatics. We have this religion. It's a belief system. And no matter what evidence they present us, we're going to find an excuse to counteract that evidence or that knowledge. And we have to acknowledge that. I think that's what this documentary does. And again, it challenges that belief system me, but I had to really step back and go, okay, is this a good thing? Like that I'm thinking differently. And I think that's the goal of the documentary. What do you say to that, Jane?
Maybe that's the goal of the documentary. I think what kind of bothered me, like toward the end, and I don't know if we're allowed to jump between like different episodes.
Yeah, let's jump between.
Is kind of like they had that one, the way that they represented the abduction phenomenon kind of toward the end. I really don't like it when you get a talking head saying like, this is a psychological reason that people believe this, because there's a psychological reason that we believe everything. It's kind of an aside. It's irrelevant. So that's when I don't like that land, when people, and when they were saying like crackpots and then showing Travis Walton, which is one of the most well documented like abduction, like missing persons cases, you know, on record. You know, they juxtaposed him with that, you know. So I think, yeah, it's good to question. For me, I don't, when I say, you know, we have shirts people can buy, like to say, I do believe, you know, with the I want crossed out. But what I mean by that is I believe in being open-minded and entertaining different theories. So yeah, I don't think that people should have a belief system. And I liked the skepticism around Elizondo that I've kind of, you know, share with Greenwald would be an example of that I've shared here. So yeah, I liked all that. And I think it's good to, question your beliefs for sure.
We'll question everything, right? And like, what, I mean, I thought they gave the abduction part of it, again, they presented both sides. I think they painted the Harvard professor John Mack in a pretty decent light, and I wish they would go into how Harvard tried to fire John Mack and how Danny Sheehan came in and put a nix to all of that. That would be very interesting and factual. And I think it would lend a lot of credibility to sort of the work that Mac was trying to do, because they were trying to get him off the board. They were trying to essentially fire him, and Sheehan comes in and again, like, legally says, no, you can't do that. This man has a right to study wherever he wants. He's got tenure. He's a professor here. He's written papers. Like, this guy knows what he's talking about. But they also have to present the maybe not so credible end of it. And it's unfortunate, I think, that edit where they say crackpot and then the next thing you see is Travis Walton, because I agree with you. I think the Travis Walton
or the kidnapping
pretty
thing.
Damn well.
What, they could be kidnapping? That's ridiculous. It's just such a strange thing to say.
For sure. But the thing that I did love is the attention that they put on the Betty and Barney Hill case.
Oh, yes.
I think that's the best abduction case, period, full stop. Even the psychologist that was reviewing their case went into it thinking this was a psychological stress that manifested itself into this experience because of their interracial relationship in the 1950s. And then after 2 months of talking to them and working with them, he completely changed his tune on that theory, and believed that something happened to these two people. So that was, you know, again, I think they're doing it both sides justice, but I mean, maybe I'm coming at this wrong. Does anybody other than me and Jane have a thought?
Well, I mean, I think that this topic, UFO in general is hard because people do have, entrenched worldviews. And I think that if you really try to approach this with intellectual curiosity, you have to be open for your worldview being completely changed, which is hard to do. It's exhausting, really, if you go back and forth between believing something and not believing something. So, I think that's, an inherent challenge here. And I think like the story that when they talked about the Phoenix Lights, that kind of exemplifies that, where we have these things that were, lots of people saw, the government denied it. Then we hear that the governor actually saw it himself. And you have all these people who, probably rightly believe that they saw something out of this world. And then, 40 years later, 30 years later, we hear about these balloons that these might actually be human tech, these balloons going Mach 10. what do you think if you're someone who's been spending the last 20 years thinking you saw an ET craft and now you hear this explanation? That's got to be hard, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. Daniel, do you have thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty in line with your thoughts, Lou. I think that generally, if this may not be a popular opinion on UFO Twitter, but if I see a bunch of people on UFO Twitter mad about the documentary, then I think this is probably a good documentary, because I'm always wary of any group wanting to shut down something because they disagree with it. And we need to be open to, if this was a case shut, closed case about this topic, we wouldn't be where we are right now. So we have to be open to all points of view and let whatever will be true come out. And I think, while I have my own opinion, sure, I, like you said, it does make you question things. And like Green Street says all the time, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? You have to keep asking yourself that, because this topic is so full of that kind of stuff, as the doc did do a good job talking about. I think any coverage, we can all have our criticisms, but I've always said that the biggest enemy of this topic isn't skeptics, it's apathy. So if you have people who are trying to figure out what it is, even if they don't think it's so-and-so, I think the more people we have trying to find out what the hell is going on, that's a win for everybody. And so, I think the people who maybe think this is a government psyop or something, I don't think that just because something immediately might be discrediting things that we might think are real doesn't necessarily mean it's, an operation from the government. There's plenty of people who, these are people have opinions, and these are genuinely good questions that we can't answer with 100% certainty. So we need to be aware of that. And anytime you see a group of people shutting down a point of view because it doesn't agree with them, to everyone else in the public, that is a red flag. And people think, oh, this is a cult, or this is a belief system that, and there is a percentage of people who have that. But that behavior is what drives the otherwise curious public away from the topic, because you think, oh, these people aren't reasonable, they're not listening, they have made up their mind, and nothing I say or do it pushes people away. So I think this documentary did a good job of doing both sides, and I can get into the criticisms of I wish they went further on both of the sides. I felt a little like the other side part of it was a little lazy, like, okay, it's our tech. Like, can we go into that for a second? Because that's quite an assertion if it is, considering what they're doing. So, but I think we have to be very, what's the word? We can't jump to attack every time something comes out. And I'm saying we as a community as a whole, and it's so disparate, it's impossible to really, talk as a group.
Well, it's a mob mentality. Right?
Yeah.
It's a mob mentality. The second that we get upset, we mob up. And man, I learned a while ago, when you see a mob, immediately start looking into the other side of why the mob is the mob, because there could be sometimes a mob is justified. Sometimes a mob is created. And there is a very big difference in those two, because sometimes a mob needs to be there, because there's something inherently wrong in the system. There's something unjust that has happened.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the mob is given the fuel and the fire to just be a mob. And so you really got to just breathe and understand what's happening. Try and take the nuance in. But real quick, Matthew Wright with a $4.99 donation says Team Squid.
Thank you, Matthew.
Didn't realize we had teams here. Rather, don't encourage division within the show. Manny, what do you think, man?
Well, I mean, I know the word, especially because I delve into like occult stuff. I delve into history, which is inherently going to bring up conspiracies, because history is littered with real conspiracies, right?
Right.
The word psyop gets thrown around a lot. What I would say about that is any sort of manipulation that would happen at this level, you wouldn't notice. I'll tell you that right now. Any sort of big group think idea that's happening, almost certainly isn't going to be the government. It's almost always going to be private corporations that do that kind of stuff because there's not really a lot of justification to be able to do that through something like the military. It's not what they do. But for sure, companies will hire people that work in PSYOPs to do certain things and convince people. The main reason I don't think that this video is a PSYOP is just because the focus is so disparate, right? It's all over the place. There's not a real conclusion. There's kind of like the half like these people are religious kooks, and then there's the other half of it's like it's our tech, but we don't really know how to explain it because we're just saying that. You know what I mean? It's like usually when you have these sort of mass manipulation programs, they're laser focused. You know what I mean? Usually when they try to divide people and get people to argue, it's laser focused. So with that being said, I think it is good. I did a video like over a year ago now where I talked about conspiracies, all of them, whether it's UFO, whether it's 9/11, whatever, right? Any level of extreme, different beliefs. They are belief systems. They're modern day belief systems. Those are like the modern religions, essentially. And it is good when stuff like this kind of gives you a gut punch. Same thing with like Mirage Men, right? Where we see that counterintelligence operatives were putting out fake information because they didn't want the public to know about their very real government project, which is kind of what this documentary hinted at, the Mirage Men kind of, book and documentary. With that being said, absolutely, the government dumps billions into research and development, and absolutely, they are way ahead of what's available commercially. I'll just say that blatantly, that everyone should know that by now.
Well, I mean,
but on top of that,
well, just to double down what you're saying there, again, think of those drones that are being used in swarms at the Olympics to create images in the sky. Those are the things that Paul Benowitz was filming in 1980, 40 years ago. That tech existed. Okay, it's older than me.
Drone technology is very old.
From the documentary, it sounded like he was seeing lasers that were shining up and obscuring satellites. Were they with? I didn't realize he was seeing drone
both.
Swarms.
Yeah, no, they said both in the doc, and I believe that because if you remember in the Unidentified season 2, they went out to the field and they went with those drone swarm companies and how they created this floating disc that rotated in the sky that had 3 dimensions, and they stopped the highway 2 miles away because people were like, "What the hell is that?" Because they'd never seen it before. And that was only, 2-3 years ago. But I wanted to get, let's reset the room real quick. Just so you know, this is Jane Kyle, also known as UFO Jane. She's a Texas UFO researcher and has documented over 1,000 UFO cases over the years and interviews UFO experts and others for her YouTube show, The Weird UFO Show. The gentleman that was just up was Mr. Manny Miranda, an Army veteran, host of the Fringe Center podcast. He covers everything from current events and history to UAP and the occult. And of course, the very good-looking Mr. Daniel Miller is an actor based out of Los Angeles, a lover of all things space and science. His curiosity has led him to the UAP topic, where as a political junkie, he focuses on the movement and efforts within the U.S. government and scientific community. And then, of course, Rather Be Squitting, our co-host, and just all-around beautiful, lovable, huggable guy. Look at him. What a beautiful man. We have a $5 question here. We're going to get into this, Brick Top, but I wanted to get Jane's thoughts on everything we were just talking about there a second ago. But the question is, can we talk about how James Carrion used to work for the government, then went on to be MUFON director as a massive skeptic? What? Okay, Jane, before we answer that, that's the first time I've heard that accusation about James Carrion. Maybe I didn't hear about that. I mean, he's kind of new to me, so I'm still learning about the man. But did you have any thoughts on sort of what these 3 gentlemen had said a few moments earlier?
There were a lot of things said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to say, not really related to what they said, but there was definitely like a turtle balloon or like a very clear like party balloon that they like spotlighted multiple times.
Yeah.
And I just have like that in my notes. Turtle balloon.
Yeah.
It's circled big. So I had to point that one out because that one was pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, I didn't, there was nothing about this that like angered me or like really like overly worry me. You know, I think it's more just I'll do whatever diligence I can to like fact check, along the way and fill people in, as they watch it.
Mhm.
So it's just, with every documentary, especially if it's Showtime or Netflix or like highly produced,
Yeah.
some of these Hollywood folks, just watch with caution,
The one thing this documentary was definitely not short on was lens flares. There was lens flares all over this doc. I'm like, by the second episode, I'm like, oh my God, this is a real thing. Like, this is a problem for Abrams, these lens flares. They do add a production quality to it. They do definitely add an elevation, but man, it looked like the Star Trek movie. Like, I don't know. That's kind of a compliment, but it's like, save it for the Star Trek movie. We don't need it for the documentary.
Hey,
don't forget one or two lens flares, but everything had a lens flare. It was fun.
Yeah, don't forget that he's been criticized for his lens flares literally since his first movies that were coming out. So don't discount his ability to put way too many lens flares so that people specifically go online and talk about, there's so many lens flares in this movie, you're not going to believe it. And there's real videos and bullshit videos. And the more people argue, the more people are going to go, I got to check this thing out. You know what I mean? As long as the end of it is they get to hear Greenwald speak for the first time. Again, that's a net positive for me. Anyone that gets to hear serious people talk about it, then it ends up being a net positive. Because people are going to forget the bullshit that they saw eventually.
Right.
But they're never going to forget, like, oh, this guy submitted a FOIA request and he was like 15. That's how long this guy's been doing this. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's pretty legit. And then they're going to dig into the legit stuff. You know what I mean? So it might be overproduced and weird, but hopefully the takeaway is that, like, you have to dig into it following the serious people while also always checking your belief system. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully that comes out of it, not just muddy waters for everyone. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. And let's get back to this question here. So, or wait, no, this is a totally different question from Bricktop. Let's answer the first one he had. Man, I'm missing donations here, rather.
Yeah, no, I get you. So this is a
okay. Here we go. Okay, so $5 donation. All right, so but I saw a couple other ones. I just didn't even see them. Sorry, guys. I'll get to them in a second. Can we talk about James Carrion? So let's talk about James Carrion. According to Bricktop, he used to work for the government. And if he did, and he's coming out sort of warning people about how devious the government is and how good they are at obfuscation. Where's Michael when we need him? Obfuscation.
Yep.
You know, have you guys heard this before? Is this new only to me?
New info to me.
Yeah. Well, I thought he was very unfair, though. We had another super chat earlier talking about wish they had been more fair on Elizondo. No mention of the IG evaluation or deleted emails. I totally agree with that. And this James guy, he pretty much said that the ATIP and Elizondo were all, government ops essentially, right? Without any evidence, as far as I can tell.
I wonder if they had time to edit that IG evaluation part of the story into the show. I mean, all they could really say, if they said anything, is that an investigation has been started. Or not an investigation, but an evaluation. Those are different, So I don't know. I see what you're saying. Like, I don't think it was a fair depiction of Elizondo and those guys. I think there could have been more details sort of put into that, but you've got 70 years of history, of this sort of same thing kind of repeating itself. So, again, we keep coming back to this trust issue. And I think behind the scenes, that's one of the biggest issues going on, is that part of the masses believes that this is a legitimate psyop to a false flag, okay, to fake an alien invasion so they can greenlight whatever, a new space force or whatever weapon they want to do, or having stored in some garage or hangar somewhere. Like, people actually believe that. And the reason why that rumor is happening is because of the dishonesty and the lack of transparency they're giving on this topic specifically. If they just gave us more information on the videos that are already public, just more details, maybe another angle. This would clear up a lot of issues within the DoD and the folks who are trying to help push this topic behind the scenes to get this in front of Congress, to get private briefings in front of other Congress committees and subcommittees. Like, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get this conversation in front of these committees, and they're hesitant because, you know, it's just drenched in this conspiracy theory stigma, and they don't want to be associated with that. And so,
well, let's not. I was just saying, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say, let's not forget that, again, the CIA didn't coin the term conspiracy theory. It's been around for, you know, well over, I think it was like 3 or 4 centuries. That was the first time some newspaper clip. But they definitely used the term in the 60s and pushed it into mainstream media after the JFK assassination. So even the stigma's origin around conspiracies like the JFK assassination or UFOs, those were highly controlled. You know, that to me is the scary part, right? I don't believe in the Project Blue Beam conspiracy that they're like green lighting stuff. Again, that may be because of my military experience that, you know, I've seen some of the crazy tech. And so I know, like, okay, if we wanted to, we could do this right now. There is no reason to wait. We could have done this 40 years ago. You know what I mean? But I do feel like the stigma itself, that has been pretty highly organized for the last 80 years. It's not just the lack of transparency from, you know, government agencies to the public. It's also the fact that, you know, there's a reason that in most other countries, they call the media kind of like the fourth wing or like the extra wing of politics. A lot of those people are paid very well to say what people want them to say. If they go on TV and treat everyone like they're a crackpot, if they believe in UFOs, it's very easy to keep things stigmatized. This sort of stuff, this podcast, UFO Twitter, that's the sort of stuff that the people who actually kind of have keys to the information, I think, are most afraid of. It's when the general public starts to build up. I think, like Daniel was talking about earlier, how, you know, as long as interest continues, there's going to be too much water in the dam to hold the information back. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Lou was the first sign of that. Lou leaving, putting an IG complaint when he was at the top of this Pentagon program, that was kind of the first crack in the dam. The stuff that's going to continue to come out is going to be the rest of the water. Yeah. But there's going to be a lot of people that put out documentaries and put out explanations that purposely try to make it seem like this is just a balloon. This is just government tech. You know, if it was, we wouldn't be dumping money into a UAP task force. If it was, China wouldn't be dumping money into building new AIs to try to analyze UAP data. Like, people aren't going to dump real effort into something that's bullshit. They will pretend to, but they wouldn't do it. The fact that there's real effort, I think, is a big sign.
Well, yeah, and I think that there's, you know, no doubt that there has been psychological ops, you know, throughout history in terms of UFO. You know, Greenwald says it in the first episode that they had to squash this, you know, whether it was true or not, for national security reasons back in the 60s. And I think the real weird thing is that now, you know, it would be easy for the government to just continue that policy, right, of squashing this issue and pretending like it's nothing. Now they're completely doing a 180 and kind of telling us the other thing. And I don't really know what to make of that. You know, if this is a psyop, I don't know to what end they might even be trying to go to.
Yeah, like I said, the lack of a clear goal is pretty clear evidence that it's not a psychological operation. Or, you know, people have to stop thinking it's like purely government psyops, right? Most psyops that you're going to see in everyday life are people that either work in psychology or were people that worked in psyops working for private industries. Right. You're much more likely to see a privately funded psychological operation turning on mainstream news than you are to see one in like everyday life or from government releases. And it's, you know, it sucks to say that. I know most people consider that conspiracy theory, but again, you can Google, you know, which people used to work in psychological operations for social media companies or media companies, and you will almost always find someone working in public relations that had a high position in their country's psyops. Twitter used to have, I believe he was an SAS member, a former special forces member that specified his career field was in psychological operations, and he used to work at the top as an executive in Twitter. That's not a coincidence. You know, that's where you're going to see the psyops. The government coming forward, I think, again, is from this flood. I think Lou leaving and dropping, you know, helping drop those 3 videos, kind of put them in a position where they were like, okay, there's too many people talking about it. There's too many people asking questions. Like, we have to kind of stop bullshitting on this. I think that's really what ended up happening at the end of the day.
Real quick, hold on a second. There might be a fake Jeremy Corbell out there. Jane, did you have any thoughts, my lady?
Well, I think when we talk about the confusion and is this Project Bluebeam or isn't it kind of thing, we get stuck in this either or. And when we know for sure there's military craft flying around, the triangle UFOs have been the phenomenon I've documented the most, and those were very prominent in this documentary. We could definitely make a case that a lot of those are military. But look, aliens can be real and can be visiting, and there can be evidence of that, and then there can be evidence of military craft, and any particular official can choose to talk about whatever case they want to. The government UAP report is only the last 7 years. There's NSA didn't, or NASA didn't influence that, CIA didn't influence that. So we're looking through a very limited lens of what this phenomenon is. So we just have to be careful not to think in either or and just look at each case by itself.
No, that's a wonderful point, Jane. And I think that's sort of the ambiguity of the whole series, is that I think it's a little bit of everything. It can be alien visitation. It can be transdimensional. It can be, Wakanda theory kind of thing. It can be, aliens visiting in strange craft that perform all of these things. It can be military tech. It can be all of these things. It could be a weather phenomena. It could be dolphins inside of Tic Tacs, which, we've got right here. Check out the store. Link tree below. Real quick, Dolores Abernathy, thank you for the $4.99 donation. Truly appreciate it. Next time, give us a message, my lady. Truly appreciate it. And then we had Brigtop here. James served 4 years as a U.S. Army Russian linguist in the Military Intelligence Corps. Where are you getting this info from, Brigtop? It's not that I don't believe you, but I am curious. What do you got, rather?
Well, I want to ask you, Jane, this. So James seems to think that Roswell, the whole UFO idea at Roswell, was planted by the CIA. Like the whole thing was just completely contrived, which I find completely ridiculous. I'm curious to what your thoughts are.
I've heard I've heard weirder theories than that. Major Ed Dames, who worked on the CIA project Stargate, shared a theory that Roswell doesn't even exist in our timeline. I think. Don't quote me. I'm sure I'm jumbling that up. I guess anything's possible at this point with Roswell. All that we'll ever probably really know is that they lied about it right away and have ever since. I do think that it was an event that happened, though, organically. There may have been events that happened before that went under our radar much more gracefully than this one. I think that this just ended up on the newspaper on accident, and the rest is history.
This is a great comment here from NMUAP with a $5 donation. If UAP is American tech, I want our trillion back that we spent on various conventional weapons. You know what? I want our trillion back that we spent on a 20-year war. If between these two things, we could get $2 trillion back. Maybe we get some healthcare and veteran mental healthcare as well. Maybe we could get a better education system. Maybe we could get some infrastructure or clean energy bills passed. Who knows? You can do a lot of stuff with $1 trillion. Maybe you can take care of the homelessness epidemic. Trillions. You know what, man? People really don't. And just real quick, I think this is a fake account. I hope it's not. But I talked to Jeremy, and he wasn't here the other day. He was like, "Nope, that wasn't me. I was fixing the toilet."
Oh my god.
Anyway, but I'm glad you're here, fake Jeremy Corbell. Kind of, we could say you're real. No, I'm kidding. But yeah,
to find out.
Wait, what did you say, Jane?
Oh no, I'm saying we should be able to find out. Go click the channel, guys, and.
Oh no, yeah. Somebody click that guy's channel because I can't do it from here. Another $10 donation from Dolores Abernathy. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I lost my thought with wait, hold on a second. Here's Jeremy
question
Corbell
mark.
again. Why
Just
does
calling it
Daniel
out.
have an upside down question mark on his forehead?
You know, you can't tame this Jufro. You know,
I just got a text from Jeremy Corbell saying that's not me. Call the fucker out. That's not Jeremy Corbell, guys. This is the fake Jeremy Corbell.
Speaking of misinformation,
yeah,
there you go. Got him.
I know, right?
Exactly.
Got his ass.
Got him.
So what was the whole thing about the him being a Russian linguist? I don't understand the connection between like working in intel, because again, one of the things that kind of made people question Lou Elizondo is that he worked in counterintelligence. So essentially, imagine like counterintelligence, counterespionage. Right. That would be a reason to be like weary about his involvement. But then again, he explained essentially that the reason I did that is because if we did find this revolutionary technology, we don't want Russia and China to find out about it. That's why they got a counterintel guy here. Makes sense. What does being a Russian linguist or Russian translator have to do with being like some sort of like guy pushing a psyop? Like, he speaks a language. He's not trained to do, I think people hear intel, I think like everyone knows how to do everything. There's specialized jobs, Speaking Russian doesn't mean you're a psyop specialist,
But it does mean you're kind of smart. What were you going to say, rather?
Well, I think that James Carrion, I think that his whole issue, it comes back to what you were saying, Louis, is a trust. I think that when Bigelow came to him when he was the president of the MUFON network, and Bigelow asked MUFON to help do these FAA investigations when people call in for UFO reports, and Bigelow told him, "Yeah, we have this donor. It's not the government." And when the MUFON guy found out that Bigelow was lying to him about that, I think that's kind of through him, through his perspective, totally against the government right there. And I don't know why Bigelow would have lied about that, but I feel like has a bone to pick with that.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me, because if you're a Russian linguist or you're anyone working in intel, you have a pretty clear understanding that we work with private companies. Everyone should know that. Everyone knows there's defense contractors, that we hire private companies to build, weapon systems and weapons platforms for us. Like, why would you, as a Russian linguist, someone who used to work in intelligence, go like, oh man, I never ever want to work with the government, and knowing that like if Bigelow was working with them, he more than likely signed an NDA. So he's only going to tell you what you have a need to know, what you have a clearance for. If you're out and you don't have a clearance and a need to know, he's not going to go, hey, I'm working with the government, I need you to come take these FAA calls. He's just going to go like, hey, I've got people, I need you to research this stuff. And the other thing is, if you genuinely wanted to know about UFOs, why would you not just go, okay, I don't really like that, but if I can help push forward disclosure, I'll do it any way I can. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems weird.
Yeah, I think that James's argument would be that the government trying to take control of these UFO reports was them trying to take control of that, be able to do counterintel and disinformation, kind of, capture those reports and make sure that if there are real or if they're talking about government technology, that they can squash those and get a hold of them. And so I think that that's where his kind of, he thought that was like a covert, sneaky way for the government to try to, get a stranglehold on all of this. And I can see why the government would want to do that. And I can see why he would be upset for the government for doing that. But,
right.
Like I think we've all been saying, it's not necessarily an either or for what the origin of all these things are.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other big thing will be, the FAA is a government organization in and of itself, right? So we know for a fact that they're going to report to the tower. They're gonna turn and go, okay, we're going to filter these reports more than likely through the government already. So I think he should have known, as a MUFON director, as a guy who's, known to put out press releases, like if there's something fantastic and amazing they capture on video or in data, they're going to put it out. So he had to have kind of known, like, we're not going to get this raw intelligence. This is going to go through somebody and then be disseminated to us for us to interpret. You know what I mean? Like, it seems weird for him to have not known kind of how these processes work if he did work in intelligence. You know what I mean? It just seems weird.
And it's worth noting that, during that whole conversation, I wish they just mentioned once, by the way, psyops against American people is illegal. Not saying it's not possible. I'm sure that there is absolutely a precedent for it, but that should be acknowledged, because that is a problem then, if that is true, because our own government is breaking the law, right?
I am curious about that. And I almost feel like it's the old, they protest too much when they, bring that up, because Well, I said, well, like lying to the public is probably illegal, but I know that the military pays the NFL to do the Star Spangled Banner and do military promotions, and there's other marketing efforts by the government to take your vaccines and do other things. So there's definitely the government can influence the public.
Sure, yeah, that gets into like public relation campaigns versus. But I think when I've heard this more recently from Semivan and that Tom DeLonge interview, plus I know Elizondo said a bunch. I think these are, specific targeted psychological ops that are originating within the CIA or within the intelligence community in order to do something. That is, at least according to them, I don't have the law book in front of me, but is supposed to be something that, ended after the, was it Project Banana Fruit? I forgot what it's called, but there was a huge,
Mockingbird?
Not Mockingbird, but I was in the 70s. I forgot the exact name, but basically the CIA got caught with its pants down doing just that. And so there were a lot of laws enacted after that because it's not good. But
I think that there probably is a difference between like a disinformation campaign where you're trying to lie to the public versus like what I think this might be is a organized campaign to let out the truth about aliens, right? Like they're telling us the truth and they're kind of doling it out to us. And I don't know if I don't think that would be illegal, but I'm not even sure about that.
Yeah, who knows? It's also weird, right?
I think the only thing of it would be illegal is if you revealed the means at which you collected that information, right? And I don't think the information itself is illegal. It's how you got it. I think is the issue that we're having here. And Bricktop is yelling at the top of his lungs that apparently this man works for the intelligence office. So does that make any difference for you, or used to work?
I don't even understand what is the intelligence office. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not very specific.
It's not. Again, there's different branches, there's different organizations. Like, saying intelligence is kind of like saying the government. You know what I mean? Like when you say the government as a whole, like you could be implying the DMV or Delta Force, like anywhere in between, and they're vastly different. You know what I mean? I would have to understand, specifically where he worked and what he did. But again, a linguist has a very keen skill set. You know what I mean? You train for sometimes years to master these languages and get certified in them. I just highly doubt that they would also then go, we're going to make you go to PSYOP school, which is another X amount of years, and then you'd have to extend your contract. And we're also going to teach you to speak in front of a camera, like, like an operative or like it's like, it's too much. Like there's too much shit backed into this one guy who then they do what? Put him at MUFON. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so crazy to me to think that that's like the whole thing. They'd have way more laser focus if this was a real PSYOP. I mean, there'd be no doubt that there'd be a singular end in mind. You know what I mean? That's how they plan. They plan literally from the end to the beginning. So you wouldn't have like this mixed message of like some of them are drones, some of them are birds. Like you wouldn't have that. You'd have a laser focus if you're doing that. You know what I mean?
It sounds like Bricktop has conceded with a $2 donation. He says like, I get it. It's just something to think about. And I think you're right. But I think the only reason you're thinking about this, Bricktop, is because the information's so cloudy. It's not clear enough. And again, this is going to be, I think, the second most important message of the Big Phone Home is to make our representative, and this is why I want to get a rep on. Try to get Marco Rubio specifically, or Mark Warner, specifically. Like, how do they realize that just being a little bit more transparent on this issue is going to win so much trust? Because there's a trust issue right now between Congress and the American people and the Senate and the American people. We don't trust you guys. And if you just gave us a little bit of clarity on just what's already been publicly made available, it's going to win you so much trust in not only this issue, but I think overall. And
nonpartisan trust. This is a total nonpartisan issue, so bring people together.
Few things.
Correct. All right, real quick, let's take a reset and play a commercial, and then we're gonna read the poll results for the first hour. So if you don't know, the gentleman here at the top is Mr. Manny Miranda. He is an Army veteran and the host of Fringe Center podcast. He covers everything from current events and history to UAP and the occult. And then, of course, we got Mr. Daniel Miller, who is an actor based out of Los Angeles, a lover of all things space and science. His curiosity has led him to the UAP topic, where he's a political junkie and focuses on the movement and efforts within the U.S. government and scientific community. And, of course, one of my favorites, Miss UFO Jane, Texas UFO researcher, has documented over 1,000 UFO cases over the years and interviews experts and others for her UFO show, The Weird UFO Show. And by the way, guys, just in case you don't know, UFO Jane is going to be the exclusive host at the Big Phone Home for our 3-day lady hours. What are we calling them, Jane? Have you called, like, you know,
Ladies.
do you have a name for ladies hour other than ladies hours?
UFO ladies hour.
UFO ladies hour. Michael and I were trying to think of fun names to come up with, like, you know, spilling the tea with UFO Jane.
Yeah, we can come up with something.
Something like that. Could be fun.
Yeah, we can come up with something a little better.
But it's going to be awesome. She's going to have some killer guests in her 3 hours. We're really working hard to make sure that she gets some of the cream of the crop guests for the whole 3-day event. So show her some love, you guys. Go give her a follow on Twitter, and we're going to be talking about it after the show because there's some fun stuff, right, going down behind the scenes.
Working on it,
right? Yeah. So stay tuned, you guys. It's going to be cool. And so, let's go ahead and give you guys a little reminder of how you guys could support the show. Because remember, we're a public access channel between here and the Singularity Lab. We mostly provide five shows a week, Monday through Friday. Michael's been sick the last couple days, so he wasn't there yesterday. He was actually supposed to go to a concert yesterday. Poor guy, he couldn't go because he was sick, so he didn't get to do the show and he didn't get to go to the concert. And hopefully he'll feel better for tomorrow morning, rather, right? You set your alarm?
Yeah, it's going to be an early one. I think that Mike is just bummed out about missing that Alanis Morissette concert today. I think that's prolonging the illness.
That's true.
That's probably what it is. But yeah, so you guys don't forget to like, subscribe, share the channel. I see 156 of you guys in here. Let's see if we can get up to 200 tonight. And of course, check out our Patreon right now.
I'm going to tell you all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom, you're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.
All right, you guys, just support. Just support, you guys. I love it. Tina tells us, it's like, Marty! Okay, Lou's dad. What about my dad? UFO dad. You know what? UFO dad hasn't been on in a while. He might have to make a stopping by appearance over at the Big Phone Home, because I know he was a huge hit on the first one. And I saw Max Moskovich in here somewhere. There he is. What's up, Max? Welcome to the show, my friend. Man, it's got to be late wherever you are right now, or super early. Either way. Okay, so let's without further ado, let's bring in Artemis Prime, who's going to read our poll results for the day. Hello, my lady. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you guys?
Doing good. All right, so Artemis, we had a poll today. It looks like it's a pretty close one. So we have a tie.
You do? Oh, yeah, we do.
We do. Okay,
yeah.
So let's start with the tie. First, obviously, let's read the poll, and then let's start with the ties, and then go from smallest to biggest.
Okay. So what emotion did you feel watching Showtime series UFO? So at the tie at 17%, we have pure unbridled rage and worried.
Okay.
And at 29%, we have confusion. And at 37%, we have appreciation.
Whoa! I was not expecting that from today's results. I thought people were going to have unbridled rage toward it. The fact that they had an appreciation for it, that's actually kind of shocking. Man, we do have a sophisticated audience.
Maybe it's all this talk that we've been saying, We've been trying to say that we have to appreciate what's coming out, and that it's not only for us who've been involved in this topic for so long, that it's meant for everybody, that some people who are like just waking up to this for the first time, or who maybe didn't believe before and who are now, a bit curious. So yeah, this is for everybody, not just us.
That's a very good point.
That's what I think anyway. So
no,
I chose appreciation,
Is that what you chose?
That's what I chose.
Jane, what did you vote for? Did you vote?
What was there? Was there like a more neutral one? There seemed like in the middle.
No.
Non-plus.
It only gave me it only gives me 4 options. So we had appreciation, confusion, worried, or a pure unbridled rage.
Oh man. I guess appreciation. I mean, I enjoyed it for the most part. And it was really fun to see John. It was really fun to see how much attention he got, and I loved all the points he made. So that definitely puts it in the appreciation category.
Agreed. Okay, cool. Daniel, what would you vote?
Appreciation.
Okay, all right.
But I'm all about just getting the word out there. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Manny?
Low bar.
Exactly.
I voted confusion just because I didn't really understand what the goal was. Clearly it was for newcomers, but at the same time, like I said the first time we talked about it, I think when the first episode was out, my big confusion was, if you really want to create the juxtaposed image of what's believable versus what's not believable, I would cut out a lot of the fake stuff and put in more people that the general public considers somewhat credible discussing it, right? I haven't seen almost anybody point out the fact that the former CIA director said that we may have to start considering non-biological life forms. That to me is a pretty big shocker that hasn't been expounded upon. Now, again, that could be because of massive distrust with the CIA, but there's things like that to me would have been bigger bombshells to put in there, that a regular person that's never looked into this would have went, whoa, wait a second, what the hell? The CIA is talking about non-human intelligence, and now you're showing me these real UAP videos. Like, to me, that would have been a better approach. But again, if it gets people looking at Greenwald stuff, Black Vault, then to me, it's a net win.
Rather. Well, before you answer, rather, real quick, Bricktop wrote, well, obviously Manny is part of the government probably because he was in the military. Makes sense.
Totally. but yeah, I mean, so we haven't really had any news since the UAP task force report in June 25th. So I'm really appreciative that we have stuff like this to keep the momentum going and keeping the issue in the public's eye, so we don't just all forget about it. And I do have to reiterate, Greenwald was my favorite part of this documentary series as well. I think it's very appreciative that he was a part of this and sharing all his information.
Okay, I'm gonna say, I think my gut instinct, I agree with you guys. I love that if somebody finds John Greenwald through this, awesome. Like, huge win. I liked watching him, and I'm just like, it was funny because my girlfriend we were watching it together. She's like, oh, he's been on your show. I'm like, yeah, he has. He comes on quite a bit, actually. So I was kind of proud of that. That was fun. He's a friend of the show. And again, it was great to see him sort of spit really great facts and add some factual stuff to this story, but also, get you thinking clearly. But I guess my emotion would be a little worried because I have a feeling, again, at another level, they're talking about this documentary, and I have a worry that they're painting the UFO community in a cult religious way. It's sort of like it felt a little bit, because the director, and maybe we could get the director on the show. I know we're in touch with Showtime. I could reach out to them. And maybe we could get the director on the show and they could give a little bit more perspective. But it does feel like a little bit like a backhand compliment almost. It's just like, you guys are all crazy. Here's some crazy footage. Here's some crazy stuff. But there might be something here, like, it's just like this game they play. Artie, you've been here for a little while. I meant to kick you out, but do you want to stick around? Or you can't, because I told you I was going to kick you out, so I don't want to make you feel awkward. Yeah.
Maybe kick me out for tonight.
All right, no worries. I know you're busy. You got kids. You got things you're doing, so we appreciate your help, my lady. But thank you for the poll results. And real quick question: what did you vote?
I voted appreciation, But I actually do agree a bit about what you're saying. So I think it's like a cautious appreciation.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair.
But
all right, Artemis. Well, we'll
I
see
don't
you
know.
Friday.
Yes. And
Yes?
well,
Oh no,
tomorrow?
no, you're off Friday.
No.
You're
Friday,
off
I have the. I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
You got
Sorry,
things
guys.
you're doing. That's okay. That's okay. Don't be
Yeah.
sorry. I mean, if Mike is allowed to
Thursday?
miss show,
Yeah.
you're allowed to miss the show. Yeah. Well, Thursday we've got. Hopefully, if Mike's feeling good.
Yeah.
If Mike's not feeling good, we'll just do the show here. But we're gonna have Dave.
He said
Scott
on
from
Twitter
Spaced Out
that he's
Radio.
back Thursday, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
how he feels.
As
Hopefully,
long
he's
as he's
feeling
good.
better. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
For sure.
We'll talk
Okay.
to you soon, Artie. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
We got another $5 donation from Dolores, and I think that this brings up a good point. Why you're right to worry. Anytime Richard Dodie appears in the documentary is a little bit worrisome. Dolores asked, "Can you talk about the interview with Richard Dodie?" He said UFOs are disinfo, but also the government had a captive alien named Herb. Why was he included? I think that's a great question.
Herb, what a jerk!
When he showed up, I literally screamed out, "What? Like, what are you doing here?"
Yeah.
Like,
but
why
he's
are you
part of the
here?
story, man.
He is. It's true. But it just
he got a guy killed. And here's the thing that I found interesting about the Dodie interview is that, and maybe Jane, you could speak to this a little bit, is that Dodie said that he did have permission from his superiors, that this was something he was told to do, and they knew he was doing it. According to Lou Elizondo, that's not the case.
Right.
So who do we believe here? Jane, any thoughts?
Ooh, who do we believe?
Yeah, or that's
a dangerous question to answer.
That's a dangerous question, but what do you think about that? How does that make you feel, I guess?
Well, I mean, I know I discussed this when we talked about Mirage Men 2, which is as villainous as Rick Dodie is and deceptive, so can't be trusted by his own admission, right? We still are only getting names and that side of the story from people like him, and we're not getting it from Lou Elizondo and those folks. Right. So we know we're missing something from that side, because we know misinformation's real, disinformation's real, and that this has been a classified national security topic even to this day, where we're not being given all the information, right? So yeah, I mean, it's I feel like we kind of need Rick Dodie in the conversation right now, because we need that side of it. And I don't know how we're going to get to a point of really vindicating witnesses or getting to any point of forgiveness with the government about this darker side of it if we don't have people like Rick Dodie saying this is what I did and this is what happened. So I don't really know what we're expecting, knowing that was the history. We should expect more figures like Dodie are probably out there, but that's just, I don't know.
Manny, what do you think about that? I mean, again, it's hard to take what this man says with any grain of salt, but when he tells you, yeah, my bosses knew about it. What do you think about that?
I just don't. I just don't buy it. You know what I mean? Yeah. The guy talking about he saw an alien, and it's there's some stories that they're kind of said in order to be fantastic, in order to draw attention, and it really is not indicative of any sort of military operation. You know what I mean? There's nothing militaristic about showing your cards, especially when it's something that could be as incredible as having an alien. You know what I'm saying? If we had an alien captive, you would literally never find out. There would be no way for you to get that into that depth, have that compartmentalized access. You would just never find out.
It was no especially what you're saying is from his position.
Absolutely. They would not get a weird guy, first of all. When they have public representatives, they have people that they put through training on how to speak, just like any newscaster, you know what I'm saying? Just so that the information is very clear. Because once you start talking about government secrets, you're getting into very dangerous territory, right?
Right.
You wouldn't have a guy that's visibly kind of, acts weird, seems like he has ulterior motives, and then giving the name of the alien and shit. You know what I mean? His name's Eben, it's is this a break? This is like a break dancer's name. Like, what are you talking? This is just like a random like B-boy Eben. Like, where you come up with these weird ass names and like who gave you the right to put it out? Like, if you really had something that highly classified, he'd be like the guy that they threw out of the window for MK Ultra. You know what I mean? He wouldn't be around. Like, he wouldn't be around. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just stuff like that just sounds so silly to me. And again, I tell a lot of people behind the scenes, like, that's really what kept me out of UFOs for a long time. Was like the people that I personally perceive, they may be authentic, but I personally perceive them as like snake oil salesmen. Like, you know, they worry me with like their cadence and like what they're saying. Like, that stuff really like gets under my skin from seeing like street hustlers and stuff growing up. You know what I mean? So it's like I get that same kind of vibe, even if they are being 100% honest and they believe what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like, he could have been put through anything else. Like, he himself could have been put through a disinformation program to be sent off to talk about it simply to discredit the community. Yeah. But I don't think that he actually saw an alien named Eben and was just like, hey, what's up, man? Oh, man, yeah. Hey, can I talk
or was
about
even briefed on it? Yeah. Forget
like,
about even seeing it. He definitely wasn't briefed on anything like that.
Yeah, like to what end? Like how? You know, like what's you know, I mean, what program? Like, where were you? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, none of it adds up to me, you know?
Yeah.
But again, they are part of the history. So you kind of do have to talk about it.
No, you definitely have to talk about it. But this is a question here from Simon Fly. Is Elizondo a Dodie? Which is a question to ask. I'm gonna. This is what I'm trying to kill right here. Is this question? Like, here's the thing. If Elizondo's first of all, there's a huge difference. Nobody else backed up Dodie. Dodie was just this one guy doing this thing, and he says he had the permission of his superiors. The difference between him and Dodie is that if Lou Elizondo is a disinformation agent, if he's a PSYOP, then Christopher Mellon's a PSYOP, then Alex Dietrich is a PSYOP, then David Fravor is a PSYOP, then Chad Underwood is a PSYOP, then Dave Beatty is a PSYOP, then, you know, all of these, you know, Sean Cahill is a PSYOP.
I'm not sure that I would agree with that deduction.
Push back.
So it kind of goes like you have all these phenomenons that are that you have reality of what's happening, right? And witnesses that are experiencing things, right? And then you have people employed by the government to talk about it and to influence those who are talking about it. And so, I mean, we know that Lou Elizondo was employed by the government and that he was in counterintelligence. So I think we do just kind of have to accept that about him.
Sure.
And so I don't necessarily think that's like a bad or good thing, though, right? So I think we kind of have to kill that question. We have to move on from it a little bit and just accept that, yes, this is a government employee that has an agenda, and just keep our eyes as wide open as possible. And that doesn't mean to necessarily villainize or distrust him. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that all the people around him or all the witnesses or all the people he's talking to or doing interviews with, you know, are in the same meetings he's in necessarily or have signed the same, you know, yeah.
But he, as the coordinator and the head of ATIP, he interviewed all of these pilots. He wrote reports on all of these people, and all of these people are backing him up. So that's the difference. Right, but they could be
yeah, but like you could have completely authentic, genuine actors, just, you know, not actual actors, but just experiencing these events. You know, being in the Navy, seeing things, and talking to Lou. And they're not going to necessarily know any more about him maybe than you or I, right?
True.
Yeah. That's kind of what, I would.
No, well, that's why I try my best on this show to humanize and understand who Lou Elizondo is. That's why I brought his dad on the show.
I love it.
You know, because the thing that I loved about interviewing his father is his father gave us a really beautiful insight into what kind of kid Lou Elizondo was, how he was raised, what an influence his mother was on him. These things matter when we're talking about these extraordinary claims that don't necessarily have the extraordinary proof, and we're questioning this man's motives, because I also question this man's motives, and I want to get to the bottom of his motives just as badly as anybody else. And it seems like the motive is truth. That's what it seems like, you know, from what I can deduce. Again, like, if he's a psyop, if he's doing this to trick us, if for whatever the reasons are, man, he brought in his dad to help him. That's some low shit if it's true, which I don't think it is.
Well,
you know, and that's the whole point of it. What do you got, rather?
Well, yeah, everyone's, you know, talking about psyop as this some completely nefarious thing, but I don't think it necessarily has to be nefarious. I think it could be a positive psyop. I don't think there's any doubt that Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and others got together and said, hey, how do we get the public to acknowledge this issue? They clearly did that, right? And that could be viewed as a psychological operation. They're trying to figure out how to get this information out of there. And I think that is completely different than what Dodie did. Dodie took an individual and fed him, one person, a false narrative. And that's way different than trying to influence the public. You know, that's
I
night and day to me.
I agree. It's completely night and day. With UAP with a $5 donation, Dodie is only good at making everyone in the room's breath smell better. He is full of, well, you know, Serpo. Smiley face. It's I agree, man. I don't know why we give this guy the time of day, but I could understand why we give it to him in this setting, in this documentary setting, because he's part of this story that needs to be told. He's part of that psyop
and who else
story.
is telling it? Like, who else is going to step up and tell it?
Right.
Because I don't imagine Lou Elizondo soon, you know, talking about the abduction phenomenon or talking about the dirty ways, you know, we lied about it. It is kind of more the future forward, positive, let's keep people calm. And so you know, again, with this government UAP report, they talked about it in the documentary too. Oh, it used to appear that we contacted humanoids and aliens, and now, due to our psychology changing, you know, our experience with aliens are different. It's like, well, what if there was a period where there was more alien contact in the past that led to kind of where we are now, and that changed, you know, that those tactics changed, you know, after a certain period of time. Because that's definitely what the reporting I've done shows, is that we had some more tangible potential encounters. And there's lots of different files on crashes and recovered aliens too. So what Manny is saying, those files are not in any government UAP report, and they're very hard to verify and find. I mean, I'm working on one right now from Hungary in the 90s. So that side of the story is just not being told. And so I would love for some more credible people to come and acknowledge that part of it. Yeah. But that's the darker, more panicky part of it, right? So
I forgot who mentioned it, but I think it was Elizondo mentioned that there will be more people coming forward.
Yeah.
That have things to say that are from whether within the government or used to be as well. So I don't think, you know, we've seen the end of this topic.
You know who also said that a few days ago, and I found it really interesting. Not this, I'm just pure speculation here, but Chris Lito ended one of his videos like that. His rebuttal to Mick West. He's like, and besides this, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was something along the lines of, and there's more information and guys coming forward anyway. So once that stuff comes out, you know, we'll be able to sort of put this all to bed. And I was like, wow, that's interesting how he kind of just threw that away. Like he really knew that was happening. So I was like, so, you know, and by the way, speaking of Chris Lito, we've got a couple of guests that we verified for the Big Phone Home. 3 in particular. The first is Chris Lito. Chris Lito will be joining us, F-16 fighter pilot, and Mick West, thorn in the side of Mick West. We're going to be having Nick Pope. So Nick Pope will be joining us. That'll be a lot of fun. And then also we're going to be having Andy McGrillen from That UFO Podcast is going to be joining the Big Phone Home. So it's going to be the lineup is getting better and better by the day. You know, we're trying to land some really big fish. That'll be fun. But, you know, hopefully a Chris Lito will inspire a couple of other pilots to maybe come and join us. So that's great, man. I'm happy to see that Chris Lito is on board for the Big Phone Home. Real quick, might as well reset. We're at the half-hour mark, and then maybe we'll get into scores of the Showtime show. So real quick, we've got Manny Miranda, Army veteran, host of the Fringe Center podcast, covers everything from current events and history to the UAP and occult. Texas researcher, UFO Jane, also, or Jane Kyle, also known as UFO Jane. And she has documented over 1,000 UFO cases over the years and interviews UFO experts and others for the YouTube show, Weird UFO Show. And you could pretty much catch her here every Wednesday as well. She always helps us on Wednesdays. And then we've got actor Daniel Miller. He's an actor based out of Los Angeles, a lover of all things space and science, and his curiosity led him to the UAP topic, where as a political junkie, he focuses on the movement and efforts within the U.S. government and scientific community. And then, of course, the lovable, huggable Rather Be Squidding, who also has a YouTube channel, Rather Be Squidding, aptly named. Rather, what are we working on right now?
Plasmoids and quantum physics interpretations. Some interesting stuff coming out.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Can't wait to check that out. Here's Tina Tebazuski's throwing up UFO Jane's link in the podcast. Also, Fringe Center. So definitely like and subscribe to those channels, you guys. And also after the show, I'll put their links in the description below in case you missed those. Okay, so we've got all of that out of the way. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, Patreon. Hook us up. Super chats. Thank you guys so damn much. Again, public access show. All of your support, all of your donations, they help bring this show 5 days a week. And if you can't afford it, don't sweat it. You get the same show as everybody else. So it's a fun system. Now that all of that is out of the way, I wanted to talk about because we talked about him a little bit, but only in a kind of a conspiratorial way. This James Caroni or Carrion. James Carrion, right? I thought he was refreshing, man. I know that's going to be unpopular, but I really liked how he made you think in a different way. He used to be the head of MUFON. He rewrote all of his scientific protocols for how the field investigator goes out and investigates these things and how to do it more scientifically. He rewrote all of these things to make sure that whatever the answer is, they were going to scientifically try and collect the data the best they can. And he quickly realized that MUFON was not interested in the same thing. I mean, it's and I think you could see that from a lot of the stuff coming out of MUFON these days. I went to a MUFON meeting a few years back. I was really unimpressed with it. I brought some of my friends to it. They're like, and I'm so sorry. I thought this was going to be a lot different than it was. I am so sorry. But yeah, I don't think they've sort of, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, and you guys please chime in. In my opinion, MUFON has lost its way in most offices, and it starts from the top. I think going away from the James Carrion sort of formula, it's showing. And nobody takes MUFON, I think, as seriously as they did 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. So I loved, it was refreshing. It was the part that made me go, oh man, I got this wrong. I'm so wrong on all of this. God, why are you doing this to me, James Carrion? But I got over that. It's, once I was done watching, I was like, man, James Carrion doesn't have the answer. And he's very open for it being an alien. He wants it to be that, but he just needs the data to definitively say so. And he knows that data is muddied by military operations, covering up of technology. And at some level, we have to acknowledge that. But the difference between that and a false flag, narrative, they're completely different things. And we really, really have to define these things. A false flag narrative is a lot different than a psyop, because even as Rather was saying, maybe this is a psyop to reveal more truth, and they're figuring out how to do it. So it could be a psyop in a positive direction for all we know. But the term psyop has, just like the term UFO, has a lot. It's drenched in stigma. So we may not want to label it with psyop, because people will go, what? You want a psyop? No, of course I don't. But again, we got to think about this outside of the box in terms of military. But what did you guys think about James Carrion as a whole? Jane, I'll start with you, my lady.
So I don't know, was he like at the end of episode 4?
I think he came on episode 3.
He came beginning of 3.
I can't really picture him for some reason. So it must not have impacted me, or I was distracted by the turtle balloon, or probably the turtle balloon was at that point. I think I blocked everything else out at that point. But I would say this about MUFON. Witnesses take MUFON seriously. So their database is like a gold mine for researchers. It's increasingly elusive over the years, I'll say that. I know there were rumors that there were contracts where maybe reports were kind of going maybe not to the public, right? I've seen, I don't want to say like specifically, but there that could be happening. And my closest to Men in Black experience, which it wasn't, it was like a mutual, but I won't go into the details, was via like found out through MUFON. So let's just say it was a case, somebody reached out, said that kind of like a UFO researcher person came and took footage or whatever. I talked to MUFON about that case. MUFON told me it was a hoax. I have reason to believe it wasn't a hoax. Anyways, it was just, and that's not something I would make a video about today or link to that article today. Let's just say that. I was like, I'm not going to talk about that anymore.
Right.
So, MUFON, it's the biggest database probably of UFO reports. So you think about what Project Blue Book is. That's today's Project Blue Book. So I wouldn't be under the impression that, we're getting free access to it. And I would suggest if you do actually want your UFO sighting to get investigated, you might actually want to send it directly to a UFO reporter that you trust.
That's not a bad suggestion.
I used to just kind of say, go send it to MUFON.
Send it to UFO Jane.
Or, maybe any of these folks on this YouTube channel, but send it to somebody who you can follow up with, and that might maybe it'll make it out on the internet for other people to see, because it kind of disappears sometimes in the MUFON database. A lot of good reports.
Does anybody else have thoughts on James Carrion and MUFON?
Yeah. Well, I got my hit of skepticism from John Greenwald, and I thought he did a great job, talking about the government as a magician and the right hand and the left hand. Right. And I thought that, he made a compelling point, and he kind of did, for me, what I think that James Carrion did for you, Lou. But for me, I thought that James Carrion was completely ridiculous. I thought this could have done without it. Well, like he thinks that the UFO myth was created by the government to kick off the Cold War, and that they were, the government proactively put out that UFO report about Roswell. And the conspiracy that he's trying to get at with, the government's behind all of the UFO phenomenon seems even harder for me to swallow than.
That's what I really want to talk to him about. Man, anytime I see interesting people like this, I reach out to them by email and see if we can get them on the show. But I want to talk to him about that specifically, because he's got to, at some level, he's got to believe that there's a diamond in the rough element to this. And I'm wondering what his thoughts specifically are on the David Fravor and the Alex Dietrich Tic Tac case, because they didn't get his opinion on that. And I'm wondering if that hit the editing room floor because it didn't fit the narrative of the thing that they were talking about. And they liked the aspect of the other thing he was talking about more because it sort of emphasized the point that they wanted to drive home. But I am curious to know what he thinks about that.
Yeah, I think someone made a point in the chat. Why did they have someone head of MUFON who doesn't believe in UFOs? Same with Steph Stostak of the SETI. It's bizarre.
I think it's okay to have somebody at the head of MUFON that doesn't believe. Like, I think that's a good thing. I think somebody at the head of MUFON saying, "Show it to me, document it, scientifically." Analyze it, put it in a file. Like we've got to have a process for this, and that's what he tried to put in. And I think a lot of the elements within MUFON were probably fighting that, because it's hard. It's hard work to do actual science. Like, to follow all of these rules and hold that standard is very, very difficult. And I can understand how that could be frustrating if half the organization is going, I don't want to do that. You know, like, that's hard. It's, oh, that's science. Like, you know, so I don't want somebody that believes in that position. I want somebody that is open to the idea, that is open. And it seems like he is open to that idea. It's just, again, we don't know what hit the editing room floor. So it kind of came off like he's only got one opinion and this is what everything is. So I don't want to paint him with just that. I'd love to talk to him and really get more of a nuanced perspective, because I have a feeling there's more to him than just that view. But I can understand what you're saying, rather.
Yeah. I sorry, go ahead, rather.
No, go ahead. I didn't have anything to add.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, I think we talked about earlier how he's like allegedly a Russian linguist. I think we also have to look at how that paints his perspective, right? If he's a Russian linguist, he's a little bit older, so he probably did serve at some point during the Cold War, even if it was the end of it, right? If you were a Russian linguist in the military during the Cold War and all you saw every day were the different mind games being played between the United States and Russia, that's going to have a really profound effect on your worldview. I mean, even people that didn't serve during that time still kind of have that Red Scare built into them because of society, right? So if you then go to if you then go to MUFON or before that, and you find out about, you know, this sort of Mirage-Men book or these counter intel operations that didn't want people seeing, you know, legitimately emerging, you know, aerospace technology and just faked it as a UFO, it'd be very easy for you to go, man, I saw the Russians lie about everything to the U.S., try to trick them into thinking they had advanced technology. This has to be the same thing again. You know what I mean? So I think life experience might play a lot into that too, right? Yeah, and as far as like standardizing, that's what everyone in the military has to do. You make SOPs, standard operating procedures, and you have to pretty much make bullet by bullet, number by number lists of how you do your job. So I think that's a turnoff for a lot of people. Most people hate that sort of system. So I can imagine that also played an effect on like his relationship with MUFON. Like, I'm going to come in with SOPs. We're going to do this by the books. We're going to do it this way. And like, if you're someone who's just like volunteering for MUFON and just like talking to a person, you don't want to go like, okay, hold on, ma'am. Like, hold on, sir. Stop with your abduction story. Let me get the SOP out because I got to do this step by step. But that gets annoying to them. So I can imagine that added to tensions. Like, there's a lot of layers to what's going on there. You know what I mean? Right. That can make the situation look weird.
That's a good point. Daniel, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really appreciative that he wanted to bring somewhat of a scientific rigor to the reporting process, because I think if you want people to start taking that, people that aren't into this topic to take it a little more seriously, you do need kind of that baseline quality of data. Problem is, yeah, these are all volunteers, and I think you'll never hit the level probably needed to really have any serious scientists use it as data in the background. So I guess it's good for information, but really I think really what there needs to be is some collective, you know, organization that's either privately funded or funded by the government that standardizes the way we collect this information. Now, whether this UPTF, this new formalized entity that'll be created, will do only military or also civilian, I guess remains to be seen. But the one I would, if you get him on the show, man, I would love you to ask these questions, is after he said that, he's talking about scientific rigor. I felt like after that, what I wrote down for notes when I was watching episode 3 was, I feel like I'm watching conspiracy theories just on the other side of the coin, where he has all these opinions that require such conniving people and groups of people all working together, this massive conspiracy. It felt like this just
but
feels
also
like,
no proof of it.
But no proof of it. So I might as well be saying all these aliens are here too. It just seemed like we never actually took what he said to a logical conclusion. Like, okay, well, how do you explain these aren't just eyewitness accounts. There were radar tracks describing these things. And I know it was before the report came out, report confirmed these things, but you have historical records of these radar tracks. That doesn't explain 1952. That doesn't explain the Foo Fighters. That doesn't explain the thousands of other sightings that were not just, that doesn't explain nuclear silos all of a sudden going off or turning on.
Right, so, which they really didn't touch in this. They didn't really touch the nuclear aspect at all.
Yeah, they're afraid of explaining that one. That to me is one of the big keys that they're afraid to talk about. You know, I've talked about it on your show and my show. Again, the way these things work is highly classified and compartmentalized. I've never seen anything like it. So everything I'm saying is just from my personal research, right? The way that these sites work is that they're on a closed network, right? There may be a node that connects out to a very, very private network, but at the site, these are closed off. There's no Wi-Fi. There's no way to wirelessly get in. You have to have close physical access. If these stories are true, which I have no reason to believe that they're not, because these are, former military professionals talking about stuff that could put them in danger, right? If it's true that these UFOs hovered overhead and turned them off, we're talking about a leap in technology that we don't even understand. Right. You would literally have to have spliced into that site physically, dug up the wire and got in, or be at the controls. That's pretty much the only way those work from my understanding. Right. So for them to remotely turn them off and then just let them come back on, they could have probably also launched them. So again, that has always played into what I believe, because I've talked to people personally behind the scenes that were, witnesses to some of these things, right? And what they say is it doesn't make any sense. Nothing adds up. There should be no way to remote into these systems, right? And yet they're turned off. It makes no sense. And so that, to me, was that Russia and China in 1950, whatever, what I'm saying? Was that us just messing with our own silos in the 60s? None of that adds up. None of that makes any sense.
What's hilarious is that if you did insert that nuclear aspect to this docuseries, I think it would have tipped the scales a little bit more in our direction.
Exactly.
Our direction, like this diamond in the rough direction. But real quick, we got to wrap this up because this is a very interesting part of the conversation, is this nuclear aspect. And Daniel, you make a killer point, and I meant to emphasize this earlier. They are throwing at us conspiracy theories from the other side of the coin without proving any of it. They're like, it's government, it's this, it's that. We're not going to show you any documents or any proof to show you that that's what it is. You're right, man. Like, you're right. But they also do that for the UFO stuff, except they put fake footage with it. And then they also, they mix it with real footage, and then they take, NASA stuff out of context. And it's now that we're talking about it, it kind of feels a little unfair to the other side.
Of course, I say, that's why I love John Greenwald, because he plays both sides of the issue, but he backs it up with evidence, which is we need more of that.
That's why he was the best part of the whole documentary, is because, again, the reason I voted for Confusion was because I don't think it was some sort of psyop thing, but there are techniques that have been used in different things. We'll put it that way, right? Yeah. That you see in everyday life, and it's muddying the waters. The documentary series as a whole felt like the whole goal was to muddy the water around the subject, which is why I voted for Confusion.
Right.
But you always have, if you put a guy like Greenwald in there, man, he's gonna be like a fucking lightning rod to kind of point you to, hey, question both sides, as opposed to whatever the rest of this documentary is doing, which is let's muddy both sides and make it seem like it's either blue beam or we have UFOs. He's like that central sticking point of like, well, maybe we just don't know what it is. How about we just keep on putting in FOIA requests like I've been doing for the past 20 years, and let's just try to get to the truth,
Well, that's what I love about Greenwald. When he says something, he's probably got a FOIA request. Not probably, he's got the FOIA request to back it up. So real quick, $20 donation from Jack Ryan. Thank you so damn much for the donation. In my opinion, there are only 3 options when it comes to Lou. 1, Elizondo's telling the truth 100%. 2, he was directed to infiltrate the UFO community and curate a narrative. Or 3, he wants fun career with money to support his family. I hope 4. Oh, I hope for 1. Okay, got it. I hope for 1. Got it. So he wants him to be telling the truth 100%. I do too. I do too. That would be, obviously. What do you guys think? Real quick, can you answer that question, Jane? What do you want it to be?
Well, what is the truth that he knows, right? I think he's probably... I don't think that he's lying. Yeah. Okay? But there's just things he doesn't say, in between the lines, right? So, what has he ultimately been briefed on? Yeah, I don't think we're getting 100% of everything that he knows or has been briefed on. I mean, that would be my 2 cents there.
Okay. Rather?
Yeah, I'd say that number one and number two. I'd say infiltrate is a big word, too strong of a word, but I don't think that those are mutually exclusive. He could be telling the truth and trying to influence the community.
Danny?
I spent a lot of months looking into all of that back when it was a little more in question. And, I've been accused, I was anonymous, of being a sock puppet account. I've been accused of being Elizondo's friend online. I think he's a good man. I think he's telling the truth. The evidence I've looked into really strongly suggests that, with the only evidence against being a public affairs office that has a terrible track record. So, pending some other evidence, I don't see why there's any reason to think otherwise.
And quickly, what do you got, Manny?
Yeah, I think he's telling the truth. The high-paying job thing, he hasn't put out a book. He hasn't asked for a documentary. Those high-level government civilian jobs pay a lot. If he was a contractor, it pays even more. It makes no sense for him to do this, except that he's just trying to tell the truth. And I think the reason he hasn't said everything is obviously there's certain information that's very compartmentalized that he will never put out because it could put operations at risk somewhere else. So, I think that there's a lot of people that just don't want him to be real, because if he's legit, which it seems like he is, it throws a monkey wrench in everything. He's like the Greenwald of the people that have actually seen the phenomenon. It's almost impossible to argue against him, and it screws up the whole argument and playing devil's advocate. He's too legit almost.
Right. No, it makes sense. Yeah. I mean, look, as far as I could tell, he's telling the truth telling the truth to a point, because what Jane says is that, there hasn't been a truth, other than, where he worked for, all of the things that he claims that he's either seen or worked on or talked about, I believe, but there hasn't been a revelation. There hasn't been here it is. This is what it is. This is what I'm claiming, because he's got NDAs or whatever his reasons are to that. I think they're trying to keep the conversation as clean as possible. So when they go to the Department of Defense, when they go to the IG, if the Department of Defense fumbles the ball and doesn't want to deal with it, the IG can force them to deal with it. So I think they're trying to do a lot of things behind the scenes that we don't see, and only time will tell. We have to take the information that's put on the table, analyze it, slice it as best we can, and try and come to a determination on whether or not we should move forward with the information. And that's all we try to do here, you guys. So I hope you're along for the ride. I hope you're enjoying the conversation. Bricktop with a $2 donation. God, I love you, Squid. Yes. So you got some love there. And Justin S says that Erica Lukes is interviewing him on Friday, Lou. I saw Erica Lukes with was interviewing Stephen Greenstreet. Is she
Christina
interviewing
Gomez.
Lou Elizondo?
I think Carrion, I think Justin was talking about, but I'm not sure about that.
Oh, okay, cool. That would be cool. If she knows Carrion, maybe I can hit her up and get Carrion on the show, because that would be killer. Lee with a £5 donation. MUFON should have stuck to its core founding, a data collection organization, not a biased opinion business making money. That's a fair criticism. Okay, so guys, because we only got 9 minutes left, so let's get to our scores for Showtime, J.J. Abrams, UFO. I guess who wants to go first? We'll give it. How should we score this, you guys? Just one score overall. How you felt about it? Should we break it down the elements of the show?
I like the science and the entertainment aspects. I think those were good scales, but
okay.
I'm up for anything.
All right, let's stick to the science and entertainment aspect of it. I mean, it wasn't very scientific, but
maybe facts.
Okay, how about facts versus entertainment? Facts versus entertainment. Okay, cool. So since you decided the categories, rather, why don't you give your score first?
I get some flack for giving 10s, but I'll give a 9.5 for entertainment, because I thought, from the beginning it was such a gripping show. J.J. Abrams knows how to put together a compelling show, and it was very compelling. For the facts, I'm gonna say 6. I think that the MUFON guy really, I thought a lot of that stuff was conspiratorial. I think Daniel hit the nail right on the head there. And I would love to see more factual based stuff.
Shocks the hell out of me, rather. that's the stance you had on it. I'm blown away by that, dude. Because I thought for sure I was like, oh, Rather's gonna love this guy. Riley's gonna love this guy.
If he could back it up with a FOIA request with government documents, I'd be all for it.
Make
but
a great
if
point,
you can't,
dude.
it's just
you make a fantastic point, rather, and it's why we want to have him on the show, because maybe he can sort of clear some of these things up. And in fairness to him, he didn't edit the show. Maybe he got edited improperly. You know?
Yeah, it's my first time hearing of him. So yeah, I don't have background on
me
him.
too. That was the first time. I don't know anything about him at all. So that's why he was very intriguing to me, because I was like, oh, wait a second. I never heard about the MUFON director, quitting and calling out MUFON. I never heard about that. So, maybe I'm dumb because I didn't see it, but I just never heard about it. Okay, Manny, what do you think? Score from an entertainment aspect and a fact.
Yeah, I would give it like an 8 or 9 for entertainment. It's definitely like gripping. It's an entertaining documentary. As far as facts go, I was gonna give it a lower score, but I'd give it a 7 just because they had Greenwald. You know what I mean? Like I definitely would have scored it way lower. But Greenwald gives it like a 5-point bump just for being there. You know what I mean? And kind of
so you're gonna give it around a 2. So if we take Greenwald out of it,
yeah, I wouldn't have seen it as like a real like facts focused thing. Again, for me, I've from day one I've seen it as a way to get new people into UFOs, and you can't burden people with like tons of facts and research when they're new to something. You kind of just have to wow them so that they start looking into it. You know what I mean? Like you don't get someone like, hey, I'm going to get you to watch football, but first I'm going to show you the most boring game that's ever been played, but that was highly technical. Like you're like, hey, watch this guy smash into this other guy. That's how you get people into it. You know what I mean? I think that's what this was, like a jumping point for newbies.
Right. Danny?
I'd say for entertainment, I give it a 9. It looked great. I think it lacked a little focus, but otherwise it was definitely very pretty and nice to watch and fun to watch. For facts, I'd give it a 6. I thought the first 2 episodes are great. The second 2 were interesting. The third one was just super weird, and the fourth one was interesting. But the third one was so weird. But they did a great job, more than anyone else I've seen on video, talking about the formation of OSAP in ATIP with NIDS and all that crew. I really haven't seen anyone else touch that yet. I think that's a really interesting part.
Yeah. Jane, what do you think?
Yeah, I give it like an 8.5 for entertainment, or like maybe a 9. I mean, they were interviewing the witness, and that one witness, if you guys remember, in like a parking building or something, right? Like it was like, wow, they're really spooking this witness out right now. So I liked all of that aspect. I would say for facts, so I don't know, like a 5. I mean, I guess there were some good interview revelations, and John was awesome, but yeah, it was kind of just a cursory, I feel like, of everything. So
okay. Fair. Okay, so I guess that leaves me. I'm with you guys on entertainment. I think from an entertainment standpoint, I'm gonna give it a 9, and I maybe would have gone closer to a 10 if there wasn't so much lens flare. Just cut it by 25%, I think, a little bit. But the editing was great. The score was great. The cinematography was wonderful. So entertainment standpoint, really good. But from a facts finding standpoint, I'm kind of with you, Manny. Greenwald really bumped it up big time. I'm stuck between a 5 and a 6. Like I wanna really like it. But if you take Greenwald out of this, it's just a bunch of opinions. It really is. It's just a bunch of opinions with no facts or FOIA requests or data to back it up. And so God bless John Greenwald. I mean, I'll give it a 5.5. And that's all Greenwald. Like that goes all to Greenwald. I'd give it a 10 if I could just base it off just Greenwald, but I have to add everything else in there. So yeah, I agree. I think you're right, Manny. It does confuse more than it clarifies.
They should do a documentary just about Greenwald. That's what I think. I think they should just do a Greenwald documentary.
Man, I tell you, when I started hearing Greenwald's story, I was hoping they would show like pictures of him on a 90s computer, just doing his nerd thing, looking for FOIA requests at 15 years old, dude. Like the guy is a legend, man. And I got a lot of
documentary just on him.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly 100%. What Manny just said. All right, you guys. Well, did you? What was the final? Did we get an average score result? Rather, usually you do that. You didn't do it
No,
this time.
no, I
caught
didn't.
you off guard. I caught you off guard. All right, no worries, man. Well, you guys, I want to thank everybody for coming to the show. Let's just go ahead and outro everybody. If you don't, this is Manny Miranda, an Army veteran, host of Free Center Podcast. Go check it out. It's a wonderful podcast. The guy is a really great mind. I love having him on the show because he always provides just really great perspectives. He covers everything from current events to history to UAP and called Manny Miranda. Dude, thank you so much for being here. Can't wait to have you on Veterans Day or Veteran Day for our Big Phone Home event. It's going to be really, really cool to pair you up with some fun veterans. So I can't wait to have you there. And we'll see you later, buddy.
Later, man.
Later. And then, of course, we've got Daniel Miller. Best looking man in ufology, without a doubt. He's an actor based out of Los Angeles, a lover of all things space and science, and his curiosity has led him to the UAP topic, where his political expertise and junkiness, he's now focused on the movement and the efforts within the U.S. government and scientific community, and a great supporter of the Phone Home. Can't wait to see you there as well, my friend. Thank you for stopping by, and where can people find your stuff? Well, you got your Twitter handle right here.
On Twitter. Say hi.
How do you
follow?
How do you say that? How do you phonetically say that?
Psyop. It's just a play on psyop, but I changed it a bit, because I was anonymous. Everyone's gonna think I'm just some psyop. That was the thinking behind it at the time.
Well, there you go. All right, buddy. We'll see you soon. Thanks for fulfilling the last minute request, dude. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, guys. Take care.
All right, buddy. Peace. All right, guys. Miss Jane Kyle, aka UFO Jane. She's a Texas researcher who's documented over 1,000 UFO cases and has done many interviews over the years with UFO experts and others on her YouTube channel, The Weird UFO Show. Jane Kyle, thank you for lending us your opinions. Were you holding back at all a little bit, Jane, today?
Oh no, I don't know. I mean, I get caught up, I think like all the listeners, and I'm a little bit petrified of my microphone.
Yeah, well, we figured it out. You sound great now, by the way. So whatever setting you got it on now, we'll get you in there. But next time, just show up a little earlier. We'll test it before we go live.
Yeah, we'll be in good shape for next week, and Big Phone Home too.
Big Phone Home too. Let's talk about it as soon as the show's over. Don't go anywhere. All right, Jane. We'll see you. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Ciao. Rather be squidding. That was a fun show.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, it was fun.
Enjoyed it a lot. Real quick, you guys. Of course, I want to tell you before we go to check out our website, thebigphonehome.com. I'm looking for it now as I'm filling in dead air. There it is.
Bigphonehome.com.
Big Phone, thank you, rather, for helping me there. We got the Big Phone Home 2, September 4th, 5th, and 6th, you guys. We're going to have journalists, scientists, pilots, UFO experts. We're going to have fans. We're going to have everyone and anyone who could participate. We're going to try and have you there and try to make room for everybody. The event's in 16 days, 9 hours. If you haven't already, check out our petition. It's step 1 in how to activate yourself and get more discussion going on the UAP topic. This petition is super easy to find. Super easy to fill out, takes seconds to do it, and is a great way. You could do it as an international citizen. You don't have to be a U.S. citizen, I think, to sign this petition, and it goes directly to the committees and subcommittees that have to do with the UAP topic. So read the petition. It was written by Tommy Zito, who does some really great FOIA request work behind the scenes, if you don't know who he is. So check out the petition. It's the first way into making sure we get more transparency, more discussion, and congressional public hearings on the UAP topic. And then, of course, we've got step 2. If you want to call and email your representative, your local and state representatives, you could put in your information here. It'll give you exactly who is in your state. Rather, did the music kill because of this?
Yeah, I think you can only share one of these things at a time, no matter who it is.
What a bummer. All right, we're gonna have to figure that out. We'll figure it out. Either
Yeah,
way,
we can do it.
we've got our phone call section here, you guys, so you can see the script for the phone call. It's not a script really; it's just bullet points of things you can ask for if you get anybody on the line. It's a great tool if you're going to make some phone calls. We got write or email a letter templates. We've got multiple templates here. One written by John Greenwald Jr. Okay, who we're talking about all day on the show today. He wrote us a template that you could send to your Congress and local state reps. We've got one written here by Alex Garcia. Our own Rather Be Squidding wrote a template, and we've also got another template by Tommy Zito and Alex Sears, who is a reporter at the Daily Caller, a journalist, the head UFO, the chief UFO correspondent at the Daily Caller, Mr. Alex Sears. These templates could be again doubled as emails. You could print them out and send them in, which is also great. And then we've got a tweet here that you can send out to any congressman or senator. Just put their handle before the tweet, and obviously it'll go right to them because you're tweeting it. So those are some really great ways to interact with the website, and some tools that you guys can use to ask and demand more transparency on this topic. If it's important to you, use this website to help you with it. And I promise you guys, this is infinitely better than the last website we have. It's so easy to use. And there's going to be more guests and more people added to our lineup. As you can see down here below, we've got the speakers. We're adding more every day. We've got Lou Elizondo, Danny Sheehan, Hal Pudoff, Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, Graham Rendell, Daniel Otis, who's a Canadian writer, journalist for Vice Magazine, Christopher Sharp, Danny Silva. Hopefully he'll be there. If things work out, Campbell Moriera. We've got, again, we've got Chris Lito, F-16 fighter pilot, just confirmed today for the Big Phone Home. So it's going to be a lot of fun, you guys. It's going to be a great conversation, a great way to interact and ask questions to these people. So make sure you're there. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share the channel, make sure you check out the Big Phone Home website, fill out the petitions, do everything you can in your power. I mean, I don't want to say we have given you all of the tools possible to be successful in this conversation. What do you got?
It's going to be a really fun weekend. I think it's going to be really productive too. I think it's going to be great. Can't wait.
I think so too. I think it's going to have a way bigger impact, and that's because of people like you. So you guys, before we go, of course, I want to say thank you to the sponsor, BlueMarlinChronicles.com, purveyors of the world's finest fishing tackle since 1995. I want to say thank you to Das Tapes. They provide all of the tunes that you hear on the show. Their Bandcamp link is in the description below. Of course, remember, like, share, subscribe to the channel. Check out our Patreon. The links are in the description below. My link tree is in the description below. So if you want to support the channel in a monthly fashion, you can do so from $1 up the way to $500,000 a month, just depending on what you want to do, baby. But either way, if you can't support us financially, just again, like, share, subscribe. Those are great ways to support. And no matter how much you pay in the Patreon versus how much you don't pay in the Patreon, you get the same show. Everybody gets the same show. There's no secret access, none of that stuff with my show. So everybody gets it at the exact same time. And that's the way it's going to stay as long as I can help it. So with all of that out of the way, you guys, thank you so much for coming aboard and getting weird on another episode of the Unidentified Celebrity Review, your home for credible news, reviews, and commentary on everything UAP and UFO. My name's Luis Jimenez. That is Rather Be Squidding. Join us tomorrow on the Singularity Lab. If not, we'll be on here with Dave Scott. Either way, we're going live tomorrow. So don't miss it, you guys. It's going to be a really fun show. I can't wait to talk to Dave about his show and how he got into this topic and all of the things Spaced Out Radio. So until next time, you guys, be safe out there. Peace.
I'm going to tell y'all right now, all of these wonderful people would not be here without Patreon supporters like you. If you enjoy credible news, reviews, and commentary on UFOs and UAPs 5 days a week, you want to support this show. What's your name? Marty. Marty, look how easy this is, Marty. Pick up your phone. Boom! You're a Patreon member. I mean, look, it's so easy. You just click the link, which is right here. Just for $1 a month, you can support this show. Just fill out the information and pledge what's comfortable for you. It could be $1, $5, $10, or who knows. Just support.